YUNKJunk!
Listen, you jerk, it's not a movie unless there's realistic child violence, and that's why the Black Phone rules.
Listen, you jerk. Black Phone has no business being as good as it is, and we'll dive into it.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Listen, You Jerk, the show where we talk about movies, sometimes video games, but just recently because we didn't have something to talk about. But we really wanted to talk deep about the Black Phone. I have a very specific part of this movie that means the world to me and is a reason why I think it works so well and the buy-in is so great. And that is child violence.
Violence.
I'm dead serious. There's something about the tone this movie sets in the first 20 minutes to let you know this feels like a 70s movie.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the big thing for me is it felt, you know, like The Shining is scary because you really think Jack Nicholson is going to cut this little boy's head off, right? And we're back there with this. You know, there's bloodshed early on child violence, adult on child violence, screaming at a kid. When is the last time you've seen any of this? It's like finally they gave us an unsanitized movie and you feel it in your gut and it just adds to what makes it so good. So I want to just talk about kind of that aspect of things because it's a little shocking to see.
Yeah. The scene with the sister and their dad when he was drinking and he was like, you know, hitting her with the belt or whatever. That one specifically kind of like started it up early for me because when that happened, it was just like, okay, like a dad's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that you touched on that the 70s era part of it. I think that's important to the story because it's way harder to believe that would have gone down like that in 2023. But in 1970, yeah, people were getting kidnapped, kids were running around on bikes by themselves, people were getting the belt.
Yeah, but also like the childhood street fight on the playground.
Yeah.
When you talk about it like, oh, it's just boys being boys or something. Not only is this not just boys involved,
right,
but this is dangerous and feels scary.
Right.
It feels terrifying. There is actual long-term damage that is caused several times in this movie. So the first thing is our hero is afraid of bullies. Yeah. Our hero has a problem with bullies. They call him gay, you know, and they go straight for it. This is a 70s style movie, so like it's the hard F coming right out the gate. But you need that so that you feel the panic that the kid feels. Right. And that becomes a much larger part of the story, but just the way that they establish that this is a dangerous, scary world and you are about to get bullied and that bullying is going to be violent and painful and probably cause actual damage is established right away. And the kid's only, you know, savior is does the homework for the real toughest kid in school. And when he shows up, he's a little guy and takes out this huge kid who's one of the bullies and like is his only saving grace. What ends up happening is there's a moment where he's separated from the hero and gets the hell kicked out of him. And the only person who can help him is his sister. And she does.
Yeah.
And she does. She gets in there and she doesn't get in there with a fist. She doesn't get in there with a foot. She gets in there with a rock. Yeah. She hits a kid with a rock. That's brain dead, permanent damage. I did too.
Yeah, like he was like it was like cracked skull bleeding like off to the side.
And that's what's so great about the movie is everything's, you know, other than the ghostly element of it, there is a hyper realism in this violence of like one hit with a rock. Yeah, you're out. Yeah. You know, and then the girl gets punched right in the face.
Kicked
right in the, oh geez. Yeah. Kicked right in the face. And meanwhile, you know, our hero's kind of taking a beating and not getting any shots in. And it's painful and it hurts. And there's bruises there later. But what's so kind of realistic about it is they don't forget that it's kids. And so what happens is after she hits the kid with the rock, he just goes and sits down on the edge, which is such a child thing to do. Of like, oh, shit. But it's also like, we're not going to, the thing is you think they're going to kill each other. But there's that little piece of we're not going to kill each other. But they're only not going to kill each other because they don't know any better. They might have already done it. She could have killed that kid.
Easy.
When she gets kicked in the face, that's a 7-year-old girl getting kicked in the face. I think she's a little older, maybe like 10 or 11.
Really?
Doesn't matter. But she takes a boot to the face and then goes and joins the kid she knocked out and sits down next to him. Essentially like you're on the bench, you know, from like a hockey fight or something like that. But I'm telling you, for some reason, that violence just establishes a tone that you don't get in any other movie because it's kind of like, I don't know what could happen in this.
Right.
I have no idea.
I think that was part of the draw for me. They do a good job of the pacing was really good.
Yeah.
But once he gets kidnapped, it's kind of like, what's he gonna do to him? And it's like, the kind of putting us in that same situation that the kid was in. Being like, okay, like why hasn't he killed? Like he even asked, he's like, why hasn't he killed me yet?
Yep.
So like I liked that pacing because until the very end when everything kind of pops off, you're just kind of like on pins and needles the whole time. Like you don't know when he's gonna come back in the room. You don't know anything.
Yeah. I mean that's the kind of the other thing that's realistic about it is Joe Hill made this movie, who is Stephen King's son, and goes under a pen name. So it's very Stephen. And what Stephen King always does is some of his stuff is a little hokey and has like messages and stuff, and are the things that later movies would not make fun of, but kind of honor by dismissing. By which I mean, oh, you're used to Stephen King where this is going to happen. We're going to go this way. Right. This movie stays on that path very much of like, the parts that are cheesy, they're going to stay cheesy. That's the purpose, So, with that, you would think that a man going around in a van kidnapping children, that when you see him for the first time and he's talking to the kid, you would think, well, there's no way this is it. Because every movie you see wouldn't do that. They'd be like, here's the false scare, here's the real scare. This movie is like, no, the guy in the van is the person that's going to kidnap you. Right. And it is the first guy in the van. You would just think that's a fake out. And what I think this movie does well is it doesn't do fake outs. No, not at all. It just commits. Right. Here's the story. Another thing from the 70s. Yeah. 70s movies committed. Right. If they were corny, they committed to the corniness. And if they were scary, they committed to that. If they were gory, they committed to that. If they were violent, they committed to that. That's just another thing I love about this movie. But my point being, the kidnapping itself is tame almost, because you see it a mile away. Right. I think literally they say it's a person in a van abducting kids. Yeah. And that van sister drives by. Right. No, I think the news says it.
I think the sister's the one that was, she's brought up the balloons, and then they were like, the police
she
never
saw
said
the black
anything
balloons. Yes. Yeah. So baby's black balloon needs to fly. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to go Goo Goo Dolls in the middle of this. Ozzy and I brought in a bunch of guitars today, so we're musicians now. Yeah.
So I'm told.
Yeah. So it's gonna be like, listen, you jerk. Like
YUNKJunk.
That's right. Anyway, back to the movie. So the bad guy, Ethan Hawke, stand out.
Yeah. He was perfect.
And you never why did he sign up for this movie?
Ken?
I guess so, because he knocked the hell out of it. He just put all the Ethan Hawke there is to be in this movie.
Yeah, he was creepy as hell.
He was creepy.
Yeah.
So essentially, his acting, we'll take a break on his acting, right? He plays kind of a deranged person who's also kind of with it. Like, he is premeditated. It's not like he's doing anything randomly. In fact, there's a formula for how he kidnaps, tortures, and eventually kills a kid. Right. And spoiler, the point of the movie is all the kids that he killed before are what's our main character's name?
Finn.
Are speaking to Finn as ghosts down in this creepy room where there's just a phone, and they're talking to him through the phone. Later on, they actually start to show up as like corporeal beings, but they're telling him, they're giving him clues about what is happening upstairs. One of the creepiest parts, in my opinion, and menacing, is Ethan Hawke doesn't look jacked or anything in this movie, but he could fuck up a kid.
Oh yeah, but he was still pretty toned. Like those scenes where he had his shirt off, like he definitely had some.
That's what I'm talking
there.
about, though. Is the kids warn him? There's a part where like he could escape, where it's kind of like, if you go up right now and look, you can see your way out. But if you go past, he's gonna knock the shit out of you. Yeah. And he goes up, and you see him just kind of hanging around the corner. Mm-hmm. And then there's one where he's supposed to go up, and I think he's almost about to, and then chooses not to. And at the top of the stairs is Ethan Hawke with his shirt off, in his mask, which is the next thing I kind of want to get into. And he's just looking there, intimidating and scary. And it's 70s scary. Yeah. He's not yoked. He looks like a 70s dad who would beat the shit out of you, right? Yeah. But he's tremendous in the movie because he has like different voices. Yeah. He has different attitudes. he does seem like he probably was working as a magician or clown or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the interactions with the brother is a whole different.
Yeah, sounds like a different Ethan Hawke entirely.
Yeah,
he like puts on like that childlike voice when he's talking to the kid. Which clearly he had some type of trauma back in the day with being called a naughty boy.
Yeah,
but I think that was a big piece of it too. Was the fact that I believe that he was deranged, but I also believe that he was completely with it. And like I was like, okay, he has done this before and he's going to do it again.
Yeah, it's almost like they didn't do what they do so often in movies now, where they're like, "Oh, you got to understand the villain side of the story." Not here.
Nope.
That's a bad man who kidnaps and kills kids.
Yeah,
that's it.
Right.
Which I missed.
Yeah.
I like that there's no backstory. I like that you just have to go with it. You know, you have no choice.
Very Lovely Bones style. I felt like not giving us any background, just like, okay, bad guy, creepy guy in a car, van, whatever it is. Like, where's creepy mask? Where's pedo mustache, whatever. That's like I kept thinking about Lovely Bones during this movie just because of that, of how it was just kind of like you're dropped into a timeline, like some different time era, whatever. You get the beginning, something bad's been happening in the area. This is what we're going with.
Yeah,
I think that Black Phone did that very well. Yeah,
very similar, and the fact that this is set back in the day is very important to the story because there's no phones, there's no cell phones,
right?
There's no way to track or anything like that. Like they had to put it back there.
Right.
And it just works so well. The thing that assists Ethan Hawke's acting very much is the prop department and the masks.
Yeah.
There are a series of creepy masks and he puts on different, it's like a 3-section mask that he can change things out.
Yeah.
Like he can definitely change from a happy to a frown, and he does it periodically, and it's just haunting. It's one of the most haunting masks I've ever seen.
It follows his like mood too, not even just mood, but like just where his mental status is in terms of like in the process of his kidnapping. Like it follows that. I feel like when they're always happy faces until he tries to escape that one time, and then it was like upset and then menacing when it was time to kill, towards the end and all that. So I thought that nuance was great too, that I missed on the first watch that I did on that one.
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks about like Mandalorian acting behind the mask and how it doesn't really matter. This is different because Ethan Hawke's presence is felt behind the mask and physically, because it is his hair, it is his body. I don't think he used a double, but there's something about the way he acts behind his mask that is different and menacing. And like we, the audience, know who the actor is, but you, the person out there, really would have no idea.
Right.
Until, we're throwing sci-fi in.
Right.
We're throwing a psychic in at the last minute.
Right. Well,
how'd you feel about that?
We're already doing ghosts, but I have a different take on that, actually.
Oh, hit me.
Well, if we're to the ghost thing.
Yeah.
I think that, and I kind of like this, tool in movies. But it felt to me like it wasn't necessarily ghosts calling him, but it was in his brain, his way of dealing with the trauma that's going on. And it was, all these things that they were telling him to do were things he could have noticed on his own. Like, the writing on the wall, like with the code, like all this stuff. I took it in a way, and it very easily could be ghosts too, but I took it in a way where it was kind of like his brain trying to like help him get through that. And he, they all gave him a piece that he needed on that last, breakout scene. And that was all stuff that he had set up on his own. He didn't dig out like the one kid told him to do. He left the hole there and broke his leg in it. He put the grate in the hole.
Yeah.
Everything that he did using the steak that he pulled out of that back of that freezer, like all these little things that they told him to do ended up helping him in a completely different way. I think that was his brain trying to, push him into figuring it out.
Really? You think that he had no, I think it was real ghosts. Just because I don't know. I think they were just trying to tell almost a simple story, almost a basic ghost story of like I think what they're trying to do is say like, the scariest thing isn't always the supernatural. It's often like your neighbors.
Right.
I
can see that too. The ghosts were trying to help.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially when literally the one ghost is teaching him how to fight.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't do it, so you have to.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But that also helps to set a tone. This is just the writing in this movie. The writing builds up very, very well. So everything builds up. Right. So that's, a testament to Joe Hill. But even the tough kid getting kidnapped meant two things. One, the toughest kid in school, who I believe could take out an adult.
I can see it.
This is 70s. He had a knife.
Right.
who I believe could take out an adult, is taken off the map. And that's terrifying for Finn because he just lost his protector to any bullies. And it's terrifying for whatever kid is next, knowing one of the toughest of the tough was taken.
Right.
The other time they do that is not only was the little tough kid taken, but the older tough kid is taken too.
Yeah.
And I think he's playing like Street Fighter.
No, he's playing pinball.
Oh, sorry. 70s Street Fighters in the late 80s.
Right.
So he's playing pinball and he gets taken. He also has the scariest ghostly thing where he's just screaming and,
just angry.
Like, zipping in and out of the corporeal form and very ethereal in his presence, but screaming the whole time.
Right.
But now that kid's taken too, it's like, okay,
this
is a tough guy.
Yeah.
Like, and now we're taking literally a wimp. I mean, this whole story is about wimpy kid who has to become a man, essentially.
Right.
Usually he's shy, he's timid, he doesn't carry himself very well. And all of a sudden he's locked in this room with this guy and he doesn't have a choice. You have to overcome being a child, being scared, any of that. You have to overcome it right here, right now, or you're going to die.
And I loved every aspect of that, especially because they put the little flourish on the end. That last scene where
when he walks back into school,
where she's like, "Hey, Finny," he's like, "Call me Finn," and then that just cuts. I'm just like, okay,
yeah,
he's a man now.
That's right. And I don't want that to be lost. That's kind of the other point. Is this is a great film, great story about becoming a man. And there's a lot of things to that. There's standing up for yourself. Mm-hmm. There's self-reliance and independence,
believing you can do it.
Believing you can do it. There is talking to girls, and there is extreme terror. I mean, I don't believe any kid or any adult who says as a kid they weren't scared of things. Yeah, like I was terrified to go upstairs by myself because ghosts were gonna get me.
I remember I did that too, turning off the lights and then sprinting up the stairs.
Absolutely.
It's just too dark.
I mean, my father actually once got a cutout Frankenstein and put it at the top of the stairs just to mess with me. It was the worst.
I love that.
It sticks with me to this day of looking up and just seeing that. But now I can go upstairs in the dark.
Right.
It's still there.
Right.
That childhood fear is still there, but you have to do it anyway.
Right.
Because especially if you live alone.
Right.
Well, living alone is hard to do. And that, very much this kid is now living alone. That's the whole other thing is whole new lifestyle, but he was kind of ready for it because of the broken home.
Yeah, that's
which I didn't really put together until I kind of looked what was happening. Everything in this kid's path was to prepare him for this moment.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it all fell together right at the end, and he finally, like I was saying, the whole kind of that last scene of him escaping that tee up where it was just knocking down dominoes at that point. It was just oh.
But one of the dominoes, a very specific domino, and this is very 70s, is eventually you're going to get in a fight. Yeah. Eventually you're going to get in an actual fist fight.
Right.
And he doesn't get to do it against another kid. Well, actually he does, but he gets his ass kicked. But it's the idea of eventually you are going to have to swing back.
Right.
You have to swing. And literally, I think the kid says...
Robin says that to him.
Back to... forward swing or something like that, which is like a video game move.
He was like back out, swing.
Yeah.
And then, but also at the beginning of the movie, Robin tells him, he's like, you're eventually going to have to stick up for yourself.
Yes.
And then it was absolutely true. And that's what he kept hearing in his head while he was trying to fight through it.
Well, you know what? Thinking of it from your lens of that, it's all in the kid's head. Certainly Robin could have been in his head. Could have been there because, man, so you're saying maybe he's
met all
lost
of them
his mind.
He met all of them at least once. Not necessarily lost his mind.
Well, as soon as you pick up a phone and you hear something on the other side, it's over.
Right. So, but see, I don't want to say he lost his mind, maybe temporarily, but I saw it as a tool that his brain used. Like when you have something really bad happen to you and you lose it, Alzheimer's, your brain just is nope, we're not going to remember that.
Yep.
It's a similar thing. It's he just, okay, this is a lot to handle right now. Here's a couple ghost friends to fucking help you kind of push through that. So that's how I read it the second time.
I definitely am gonna stick with it being actual ghosts because I like that, because I also like that they died.
Well, it's also cool that we can have this conversation. We can completely take it two different ways, and no one's right.
70s.
Yeah.
70s. Ambiguity. Fuck yeah, ambiguity.
Love it.
We know what happened to our main character, but we don't know shit about the rest. And I like it that way because I have to think about it. I have to continue to wonder what happened. What
Yeah, they never even told us what like the thing he likes the most is, which you can kind of guess, but they don't even really tell what he like. The one point he says, "I'm usually use a knife, but I'm going to savor this." So it's like, is he a rapist, pedophile, or is he just or is he just a killer? Like, they didn't tell us anything. We don't even really know what he did to those kids,
and it makes it scarier.
Yeah, because like we're following the kid, so he got out, and then it's like, well, dude's dead.
Yeah. So there is one great fake out in this. He gets out.
Yeah,
and gets recaptured.
Yeah,
like what?
Yeah. Chase him down the street.
What?
And then the most haunting part of that scene was when he actually tackles and pulls the knife to his neck and says if you say anything, he said, I will gut you like a pig and strangle you with your intestines. And then the silence after that, while like he's looking at the lights, like it was so loud and chaotic, and there was music and he was screaming, and then it just silent. And I'm just like, oh, this is so creepy, and he's so screwed.
I think some blood draws.
Yeah, no, he's like it's in his neck. Like all he has to do is lean in a little bit and it's going in.
Sure. And again, just those little things. Show me child violence if you want me to be afraid.
Right.
Because like I don't care if an adult has one of these problems. I just don't. You're an adult. But an actual child played by a child getting violently assaulted on camera.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it's all, bells, whistles and makeup and stuff, but go for it.
Right.
It makes so much of a difference when you actually go for it. It is so hard to unsettle us as people these days, just because on the internet, we can see the worst of the worst. You can see whatever you want. You want to see a lion eat someone, knock yourself out.
Right.
But which has desensitized us to a lot of stuff, but never to kids.
No.
We will always be terrified if a child is in danger. And if a movie does enough job through its writing and directing, and in this case, prop design and costume and makeup to show us injury,
right,
we then believe it.
Right.
It's so hard to believe anything because it's so sanitized now. This is unsanitized cinema, and it feels great.
Yeah.
How the hell they got this through the studio system, I don't understand. I think it was this A24? Blumhouse. Okay, so the other guy. Yeah. Well, that's how you do it.
Right.
I mean it. Like, if you make it cheap, you have more freedoms.
Right.
Once you're in the studio system, you're screwed.
Right.
There's only a few people making movies like this, and that's A24 and Blumhouse. Blumhouse to a lesser extent because they're kind of a horror genre.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, it was like low budget. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because, we have technology today where we can make something look like the 70s.
Yeah, literally just the tint, like a sepia tint or something. Like you can always make something look older.
By the way, one actor, one name in this. I don't know anybody else in this movie.
Yep.
That is how you do it.
The dad,
the dad was Scoot McNairy?
No, it was crap, I don't remember his name.
Oh, well, here we go. Start guessing.
Daniel something.
Daniel something. The great Daniel something. Starring in shit. Oh no. How long's it been, Dylan? The Black Phone. How we doing? Oh my God. Oh, I meant of me looking up the cast thing, but that's fine too. Black Phone cast. Shit. This is good. This is good. We're vamping. We're vamping. Dun, 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 dun. Wait. Who? No, that guy's name is Terrence Shaw.
The dad of the kid of Finn and the sister?
Yeah, I'm right. Yeah, he's nobody. Not he's nobody,
right.
But the brother. The brother is someone. Who the hell is the brother? The brother is someone, and I can't remember who it is. But he's in like another movie. James Ransone. He's in something. I can't remember. Anyway, moral of the story is nobody's bringing home $1 million on this, except for maybe Ethan Hawke, who probably got paid that. Yeah. Deserved every bit of it. But that's how you do it. You build things around, one star, because if you don't have him, this could go very wrong.
Very, very wrong.
Like, you need to have a high quality actor in that position. And I think if more movies identified, okay, we got to spend most of the budget on casting one, not 5. We only need one, Tying
it back to another episode we did that's in the Michael Jordan movie, Jump or Air, whatever, did the same thing.
What do you mean?
Well, not in real life, but in the movie, they were like, we're not going to get a couple. Let's go get one.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, this is just how I wish more movies were made. It just makes me, it harkens back to a different time, and movies from back in the day stick with you way harder. And I think this movie's going to stick with people a bit more. I love that phone. Phones to this day are going to freak me out. But what's going to freak me out more is like weird neighborhoods. There's going to be creepy people there.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Ethan Hawke's name. Do you know what it is?
Ellison.
How'd you get that?
Because I remember he was Ellison in something else too. I can't remember what it was.
Are you saying in Ethan Hawke's real name?
Yeah, like he played a character, Ellison.
The name of the guy in this movie is Ellison, the guy in the mask.
I believe so, because it's also the name of the grocery store. Like, it was like one of them trivia pop-ups on the streaming site that I watched it on.
Oh, interesting, because on in the credits, he's just named the Grabber.
Right.
The Grabber.
Right.
The guy who grabs children. The Grabber.
Right.
Great. No fluff on that. Perfect name.
Right.
Perfect name. And he does. He literally grabbed him. And he took him in a van and they took him away and he gassed him out.
Quick grab and go.
Quick grab and go. I mean, what are your thoughts on 70s cinema?
Can't say I've watched that much of it. Like, you're talking about cinema from the 70s or set in the 70s?
From it.
Yeah, it's like can't say I'm that familiar with too many. None pop in my head right now.
You see The Shining?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Technically 1980. But The Shining, to me, is like the perfect 70s horror movie. Because it's all practical effects, and they knew their limitations. There's no weird CGI or unbelievable stuff. They put actual blood in the hallway. And this movie feels very similar. Like they looked at it of like, okay, it's a neighborhood with tough kids, scary adults. They have knives and they're violent. And we have a phone.
Right.
The ghosts themselves, CGI, but done pretty well.
I thought so.
But the thing about it is you don't need them. That could have just been voices.
Yeah.
And I think that is something I almost would have preferred.
I had that in my head already when I started today rewatching it. I actually wish that they weren't ghosts because I don't believe in ghosts. I'm not really a big ghost movie, horror movie guy. So that to me, if it was just creepy voices coming through the phone, and maybe it's because I was reading it a different way than ghosts. But or if that was just, the quiet, whispery voices in the phone, that's creepier to me.
Me too. And I thought for sure that was the way we were going. So I was a little surprised when they actually did a reveal like that, because I thought maybe it would be in heads. But as soon as we have, oh no, the daughter's actually a psychic, then I'm like, okay, we're in the land of make believe, and that's okay.
Something to note though, and I don't know if this actually lends any credence to what I'm saying, but he never looks at any of those ghosts. They're always behind him, over his shoulder, sitting on the other side of the bed. He never sees them. I think they're there for us, which I think was an interesting way to do that too. Yeah,
I might even. Well, yes, that's very, very true, and that helps it because for him, he is just hearing it. It is just in his ears, and boy, I forgot about that part of it. You're right. He never actually looks at,
which is kind of like that. Sorry, decades later, but that Sixth Sense reveal when it was like no one's actually communicating with him the entire movie. He just sits in a room with somebody. I kind of felt that way about it.
Interesting. I love the color palette of this movie. It's very gray
and like deep blue, like dark blues.
And orange, and the school is like just looks like a place you'd never want to be ever.
A lot of fighting.
It's fucking dangerous. I think that's the big takeaway of for me. I started this on child violence, but I don't feel a sense of danger without that. And if you remember back to when you were in school, if someone was looking for you, you were in danger. It wasn't funny. It wasn't playful. It wasn't like I'm gonna be okay. It's no, I'm gonna get the shit kicked out of me.
Right.
And it's gonna be ugly, and it's gonna be violent, and it's gonna hurt.
I have to eat it.
And it's terrifying. And this movie perfectly taps into the terror of being a child, ramps it up to 11, but doesn't do anything absurd. Right. It toes the line very, very well. There's not There's not even real hyper violence in this. Is this an R-rated movie? You think so?
Yeah. The scene alone where the kid's pummeling the other kid in the face.
Really? Black phone. Looking. Rated. Doesn't say. Doesn't say.
Interesting.
Huh. Based on a short story. Producer Jason Blum. A mysterious telephone. It's so weird. I can't see it. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter because some stuff you definitely could do in a PG-13. So that's why I was curious. I mean, the violent stuff which needs to be there to make me scared. Rated R. Okay, it was rated R. I don't know that it particularly earned its R rating. I think this might have been a PG in the 70s.
Well, in the 70s, everything was PG.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that maybe there isn't physical violence that would warrant a rated R, but because it's directed at children and because the threat of pretty awful stuff is there. We don't see him do anything, but the threat of us having to see that is there.
That's also a big thing in the 80s. I mean, the 80s is when the do you know where your children are started.
Right.
Like it was, I think it was like Barbara Bush kind of started a lot of this stuff.
Nancy Reagan or something.
Nancy Reagan back there. I think it was Nancy Reagan that kind of started, you should have some family values, and this kind of flips that on its head.
Oh yeah.
Last thing I want to talk about is shitty dads.
Yeah.
This is an all-timer.
Yeah.
This is an all-timer who kind of gets redeemed, but it also essentially this whole conversation as the movie has been just about Finn's story and being a man. There's a whole separate story of of his sister and her dad that is revealed to us truly as well. It's an interesting B story. But in that, like you mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it starts with violence against the girl with a belt, and it looks brutal.
Yeah.
They don't shy away.
That also, kudos to that girl. I believe the crap out of that. Her like screaming and crying and saying like, "God." Yeah. I was like, damn, like I feel like I've been in the room for that before. I think it might happen to me before.
Yeah. So with that, the reason why she's getting hit is because she's telling stories. And later it's revealed her mother also used to tell stories. And her mother killed him. Her mother YouTubed herself because we can't say the word.
Well, yeah, the voices told her to do very horrible, bad things. They don't really say what, and then YouTubed herself.
And then he became a single father who, like everybody in the 70s, comes into a drunken monster.
They say multiple times, it's Friday. I know, I'll keep an eye on Dad.
Yeah.
They say it multiple times early in the movie.
Multiple times. And it's nice to show drinking like that, like realistic drinking.
Well, that's how it was in the
realistic alcoholic drinking.
Yeah. Sitting alone in the dark with a drink in your hand, just getting to where you need.
Yeah. Yeah, and like aggressive swigs and things like that. And the way he's acting is so cruel and so mean. But as it turns out, he's doing it out of fear. Yeah. He's doing it out of fear that she's going to YouTube herself too. Which you can understand why that would drive someone to madness. So that's kind of why he's not justified in it by any means. But you could see why someone would be drawn to madness because of this. And you can see the toll it takes on this guy when his son is taken.
He definitely was hurting.
Because now he's left alone with the weird one.
Yeah.
Right. And the weird one will not stop talking about, I can see him. I know where he is. I've been talking to him, things like that. And he's like, this is impossible. But finally, does she just go direct to a cop?
Yeah, well, when she finds the house, because she does say, like, what if it can help? And then he drives her around anyway. So he does kind of, in his mind.
Okay, the dad does drive her around.
Yeah, but then she finds the house on her own, and then she immediately calls the cop, goes straight back home and gets the business card.
Yep. Which, a little rough for me as far as that turn. I didn't bump up into it while I was watching, but on reflection, it is kind of like, I wish he saved himself, which he kind of did.
He did, because they were in the wrong house.
Oh, I forgot about the fake out. That's the other fake out. I am so sorry. Yeah, the big fake out is the girl.
They're not in the right house.
Tells him the wrong house, but you think that everything is going to be working because they're at the brother's house, but he has a second house.
Well, they timed it perfectly where as the cops are going down the steps and he's going up the steps and you're just waiting on them to like bump into each other, and then it doesn't happen.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, this is the body. This is the wrong house. And I'm just like, what? Where the hell is he then?
Yep.
And
then he's got to get himself out anyway.
So he did get out. They would have just left that place and not looked across the street. Probably.
That's right. Another like realistic thing, really realistic drug use.
Oh yeah,
from the brother.
Yeah. I think he actually did a line of coke right there on screen. I'm fairly certain.
It looked like it. I mean, and his mannerisms and everything, and just being like a weird guy.
I think he was on a rocket.
But I was not ready for him to get YouTubed.
Oh yeah, with that thing sat in his head for such a while.
Punk.
Yeah. Then when he goes to rip it out, that sounded real.
That was a little crazy. Anyway, moral of the story is I forgot about that, but yeah, I'm glad that her premonition was off.
Right.
Because if he
still got out.
He still got out. And that's what it's all about. But kind of what I was saying is the girl has a very interesting story as well. The girl, this is the story of someone who essentially is telling tall tales that aren't that tall. They're not always right, and it would be different if they were right, but ultimately the father is terrified of her because her mother used to do the same thing.
Right.
Which also leads into your theory, Finn probably was also dealt a hand of the.
That's what I'm saying.
A hand of the weird head.
They kind of felt like not that we meet the mother, but the sister and the relationship with the dad and the sister versus the dad and the son. I think that they kind of like were foils to each. She was kind of like a foil to the crazy mom, and he was kind of learning to get his strength while his dad didn't have any. Like I don't know, it's hard to put my.
It's kind of like he became the father he should have been. Like Finn became the father of the family that the other guy should have been, but was too depressed and upset to do anything. And by the end, he really has come into his own, and he can handle himself.
Right.
So ultimately, if you want to make a great movie, punch a kid in the face.
Right in the face, multiple times.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it comes down to is you gotta hit children or else you got terrible movies. And if The Black Phone did anything, it made me remember why it's important to hit your kids. Don't listen to your crazy daughter. And for God's sake, get 2 houses if you're going to commit crimes so that the cops will go to the wrong house.
Genius.
Makes perfect sense. Right. And also, if you have a brother, he's expendable.
Yeah.
Listen, you jerk. The Black Phone is an excellent movie. I highly recommend you watch it. I want to hear your thoughts on it, so please comment. And ultimately, childhood violence for the win.
Listen, you jerk. Who doesn't like to see a kid get punched? Have a good one.
YUNKJunk!